It's fertilizer day in the garden, and we're giving everything a dose of the Alaska Fish Fertilizer, and I'm going to show you exactly how I do it so that you don't have to mess around with measuring cups and figuring out gallons and how much should go where. So here's my trick to how we feed our garden. I have a couple tips for you to make it so that you get the most out of feeding it. You don't want to go spend the money on the fertilizer and then it just all gets washed away, or you feed too much. So let's take all the confusion out of it. Super simple. I do 2 glugs of the Alaska Fish Fertilizer into my 2-gallon watering can. Put the glugs of the fish fertilizer in first, go glug, glug, and then use your hose, spray it in here. It will mix it up for you as it is filling up with water. Perfect, yay. Make sure you give the jug a shake up. Sometimes it can get like kind of stuck up at the top, like it starts to separate. So shake it up really good. It's a little bit thick. You wanna come here closer, babe? We'll show them. This jug is pretty close to being done, but what I do is I just do 1 glug, 2 glugs. You're doing approximately 2 tablespoons of the fertilizer. Then have your hose, and you want to just run the hose in there because that is going to mix it up for you. You don't need to do any mixing. And I run it pretty high. It gets kind of frothy up towards the top. Once you're getting up towards the top, I just turn my hose down a little bit so that I can continue to fill it up, but I'm not going to overflow my container because you'll see all that frothiness comes out of there and you don't really want to get it all over you. Okay, now it's ready, so we can go feed our garden. Now, when you feed your garden, I always suggest that you feed it in the morning. That's when the plants are waking up, just like you, and they are soaking up the most amount of nutrients. So we love to give the garden the fertilizer in the morning. The problem when you feed your garden at night is that you are creating this damp, cool, dark environment, which invites all of the bad bugs. We don't want to invite the bad bugs. Instead, we want to feed and water the garden in the morning because then the plant has time to soak up all the nutrients during the day, and then it's nice and safe at night and it doesn't have all of that invitation to the bad bugs. Okay, the second thing is that when you're feeding your garden, you want to make sure that you're actually giving the fertilizer to the roots. It isn't the leaves. This isn't a type of foliar feeding right now. Foliar feeding is when you actually spray the leaves of the plant and you're trying to put nutrients on the leaves. That's not what we're trying to do right now. So we actually want to water around the plants so that it gets into the roots, which is going to actually feed the soil too. You're feeding your soil as much as you are feeding your plant. And when you feed your soil and your soil is happy, then your plant will be happier. Now, this 2-gallon watering can is going to do 1 flower bed, and I'm going to show you how big that bed is. So this bed is approximately 4 feet wide, and we're going to say it's 10 feet long, even though it does do a little bit of a T. And my watering can, 1 2-gallon watering can, is going to water the entire bed. Now, remember, this is not a deep watering. Deep watering is for a different day. The day that we feed our garden, we're trying to just give it a dose of the nutrients. We're not trying to saturate the soil. Our goal today is to feed it, not to saturate the soil. So you'll see, I'm going to walk around and I'm going to water it, and we're really just trying to get the fertilizer around the plants. I'm not trying to do a deep water on them. It is okay if some of the fertilizer gets on the leaves, but the main goal is really that we get it into the soil so that all of these plants can have a dose of food. When do we fertilize? I planted our spring plants. These are scabiosa, we have monarda, feverfew, yarrow, sweet peas, echinacea, rutabaga, all of those things have gotten planted and they are just starting to really get their full growth going. And so this is when I want to feed them because they've had a few weeks to kind of get settled in their new spot, and now they need a dose of food so that they can continue to grow really well. Then we put it on our calendar. Every 3 weeks, I will feed this bed again, and we try to split the garden up because, as you can see, there's a whole lot more garden beds down the hill and back behind where we're videoing today. All of the garden spaces get fed throughout the summer season. We start now at kind of the end of April, and then we will continue feeding all the way until we get into September. But every 3 weeks, we feed a specific area. So if you have more than 1 or 2 or 3 garden beds, break it up and feed a different bed every week. What it does for you is it allows you to not have to spend so much time out in your garden trying to feed it. Now, the fish fertilizer does have a very strong fishy smell. So if you have a dog, I encourage you to leave the dog inside. Let the fish fertilizer kind of get into the soil and the sun to kind of help the smell dissipate. Because I have heard some people say their dogs do like to dig it up. I have not had any trouble with our cat digging it up, but she does like to lick the lid. Disgusting. Whatever, but she doesn't seem to dig up the plants. We have raccoons and possums and all those kinds of wild animals that kind of roam through our yard. None of them have ever come and dug it up, but I do think it helps because we're watering in the morning, and so none of those animals are in our yard during the day. It would only be at night. So feed and water in the morning. One more fertilizer tip for you. Don't fertilize your garden right before you're gonna host a garden party or have your friends over, or show your house on the market or something like that, because it takes about a day for the smell to dissipate. I'm out here in the garden today and I keep smelling the fish fertilizer, which to me doesn't bother me, but don't fertilize your garden, or at least the area of your garden you'll be in, if you're inviting a bunch of people over. And I think that's all the tips on fertilizing, but put your comments, questions below. It's so helpful when we get your questions, because then the next time we're out here in the garden, we'll bring you with us and we'll show you what we're up to. I also put in the description below a link to our garden planning guide. If you are I cannot figure out how to plan out my garden, click on that link. It'll take you right to our garden planning guide. We put our own garden maps in the guide. I give you a list of what seeds we start and when, why we like growing certain things here in the Pacific Northwest. Also, down in the description, I put the link to the Alaska Fish Fertilizer. So if you're not sure where to get it, you can purchase it on Amazon. Super easy. They will deliver it right to your front door, or most garden centers, Home Depot, Lowe's, all of those places will carry it as well if you want to just pop in and pick some up. Now, it's time for me to go feed a few more things in the garden. But have fun. We're so glad you're here gardening with us at Cider Press Lane.